Amped up. Thursday, March 13, 2025. Full disclosure. While we always run on no filter on this channel, no sugarcoating, no BS, it's going to be even more so in today's Amped Up, as we're running on 25 minutes of sleep, slightly under the weather, not enough coffee, and I caught AEW Dynamite last night. If you watch that show, you know exactly what that means. Oh, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk Roadblock as well. Big moment to end that show. Huge moment to end that show, actually, as one woman stood in that ring, hoisting up 2 championships. What a moment for that lady, for that brand. We're going to talk about it in the show in totality. But AEW Dynamite, coming off of Revolution, coming off of this big show that, in totality, in the grand scheme of it all, while everybody has been really down on AEW as of late, and by as of late, I mean many months, this past weekend, everybody kind of came together and said, hey, that was a pretty good show, minus the main event. A lot of people not happy with the mock sitch, the awkward, bizarre cash-in with Christian. I got you. But hey, a good event, actually. This is where you carry that momentum, right? That very first Dynamite, you have to lay down the future of AEW. If you thought that was good, just wait. Sit back. Grab your beverage, sit back, kick the feet up. You're going to love what we're distributing tonight on Dynamite. That's the mentality that Tony Khan has to run with. Take that momentum. You desperately need it. And he produces the show that he produced last night. If you've been following this channel for any length of time, you know BC's been pretty much defending AEW. I don't know how I got into that role. Maybe I so desperately would love competition for WWE so the pro wrestling game would be better than it is right now. Because I cannot stand Hunter Hearst Helmsley's booking in WWE. I can't. It's all over the place. It's beyond confusing. It's beyond repair in most instances. Face versus faces, heels versus heels. No story progression that anybody cares about. Weird matches like Punk, Rollins, and Roman all in one match at Mania just because we have nothing else for them. And we don't have any other heels. So let's take 3 of our top baby faces and throw them in one match. Do the same thing for the ladies. Io, Bianca, and Rhea. Let's just throw them all in one match, because that's what you're going to get. The one heel they do have, the bigger, semi-bigger, he's been booked just as badly as everybody else, even with a championship. But Gunther, he's tied up with Jason Uso. Because that's Mania. Charlotte will get her 86th championship. Yeah, this really feels like Mania. Thank goodness John Cena did the heel turn. We would have nothing to talk about this WrestleMania season as we're just 1 month away. That's the truth. Hunter Hearst Helmsley's booking sucks. I might be the only one in the community to call that out, but it's the truth. So yeah, I really want a company to come around and really be competition. AEW is the closest we have. So while everybody says it's the worst show in the history of wrestling, AEW is a stone's throw away from being put out of business. They can never come back from such bad television. I've been trying to catch it every now and again. And when I do, I don't see it as bad as everybody is saying. It's certainly not good. But I see what needs to be taken out. I see what you need to put in. I need the storylines to be more electric here. I need a storyline here with people like Mercedes and Hurt Syndicate. It's great they have championships, but without a story, without a creative direction, nobody's going to care about all the gold around their waist. It's these things, and AEW can be something special. So somehow I've been defending it the last several months while everybody else is absolutely trashing it. But you catch that show last night, and there is no way you can watch that and say that Tony Khan isn't either consciously or subconsciously tarnishing, sabotaging his own product. Coming off of what everybody saw this weekend to put on a show like that, how are you not thinking, Tony Khan, what are you thinking? That show was awful last night. It made no sense. It had nothing to do with Revolution. You're out there with a speedball, Michael Bailey. Speedball, Michael Bailey. Now, if you're wondering what a speedball Michael Bailey is, I have no freaking clue. BC is a really good wrestler from TNA. That's great. That's great. I hope he won all the titles at the same time in TNA. He was probably in a six-pack challenge with King Kong, Godzilla, and 3 of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and he probably came out the victor. Cool, man. Speedball, speedball, speedball. Right? If Jim Ross was calling it in TNA, that's what we'd be hearing. Cool. This is not TNA. This is AEW. This is coming off of Revolution. This is a time where they really need momentum. Speedball Michael Bailey? Speedball Michael Bailey is what you're presenting out there. Now's the time to do this. When you have so many people on that roster desperate for TV time. When you have all these things that you could be continuing that storyline more vividly after Revolution. Speedball Michael Bailey. And you're talking about tournaments. Tournaments. What was this even called? A Dynasty... Where is this? What is this? What is this called? I put it somewhere in my notes, did I not? A Dynasty International Championship Eliminator Tournament. The fuck is that? What is that? What are we doing? What are we fucking doing? What are we do? What is it? Another tournament? You're struggling to get 600,000 viewers. And your answer is Speedball Michael Bailey in a tournament. At a time where many fans like BC, who really want to see true competition for WWE because WWE needs it right now. Their only way WWE is truly going to get better is if they're feeling a little bit of heat under their ass. The only company right now that can distribute that heat is AEW. They're the closest thing somehow. And that's their answer while they're struggling to get 600,000 viewers. Speedball, Michael Bailey in tournaments. We have ran tournaments into the ground. A Dynasty International Championship Eliminator. Let's take all these wrestlers from around the world where a lot of the fans in the States, even AEW fans, they just never heard of or they just don't know much about. And at a time where you're really trying to bring viewers in, you're just going to bring even more talents that are not a part of your original roster or are brand new. Is this the time to be doing that? Or maybe focus on the talent that you do have. This has been Tony Khan's problem from the beginning. He just wants everything all in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day, but Tony Khan said, hold my coffee. I think I can do it. And so within 5 years, this dude had 3 television primetime shows. 3. Collision, Rampage, Dynamite. Do you know how long it took Vince McMahon to get Monday Night Raw? Vince McMahon was bumping out early 80s through the 90s. What was the first Raw? At least 10 years after the 80s boom. It was somewhere in the early 90s, maybe. Okay, then SmackDown came a few years later. And there was no third big primetime show ever. Tony Khan, in just 5 years, has 3 primetime shows. Rampage was struggling mightily, so what was their answer? Let's bring in another show, Collision. Then Dynamite then they all start struggling, and before you know it, Rampage gets Das Boot. All of a sudden, Saturday's Collision is pulling in 400,000+ viewers. It becomes somehow the better show, but Dynamite is supposed to be the flagship. Everything's ass backwards. But he wanted everything real quick. Three shows. Started having 250 people on his roster. Why, dude? You're brand new. Relax. Get a roster of 50 or 60 and make each one of them special in their own unique way. No. More. So that's their answer, Les. I tune in, again, maybe subconsciously ready to defend AEW because I want to see it succeed. But when the show was done, there's no way I could defend this. Speedball Michael Bailey, another tournament. The main event, you have Pockets McAllister in there with a dude from CMLL. And I wouldn't even try to pronounce his name because I'd butcher it because it's not how it's written. They were pronouncing it totally differently, and I have too much respect for these wrestlers to butcher it. And I'm sure he's a really good wrestler, by the way, for those that follow C-Mill. I'm sure he is. But, and if that is the case, you're probably not happy. If you're a fan of this dude from CMLL, you're probably not happy with what you saw last night because he was in there and Pockets McAllister was just making a mockery of this dude. Just totally making a farce of pro wrestling. I don't mind the antics once in a while. You put your hands in your pockets, you do your little kicks. I understand how that could get a giggle, maybe sell some shirts. I get it, guys. If you've noticed on this channel, I don't really go hard on Orange Cassidy at all. I kind of get a little bit of the gimmick. Listen, if we're going to yeet like a bunch of just absolute imbeciles for 25 minutes every show, then you can do your little pocket kicks. What you saw last night, though, especially when you're trying to get the audience that doesn't know this dude from CMLL, C-Mill, if you're trying to get your audience to kind of understand this dude, learn about him, that's probably not how you want to do it. Guys, I'm not making this up. Pockets was literally wrestling a good portion of this match with his hands in his pockets against this dude that's supposed to be taken seriously. He's a really good wrestler for C-Mill. And Pockets is in there like leapfrogging him and dodging him with his hands in his pockets. He did a Hurricanrana, a Frankensteiner, with his hands in his pockets. There was a time, guys, there was a moment in this match I felt so bad for this dude. Cassidy is doing the wave while he's walking the ropes. He's doing the wave. He's got like a wrist lock on this dude from C-Mill. And he's got this wrist lock and he's just walking like The Undertaker used to do. But he's not The Undertaker. So you don't believe at all that this dude that's maybe 5'8", $150 soaking wet is holding this dude's wrist. And this dude can't just yank him off the rope at any moment. But we'll suspend the disbelief for a little part of that top rope. No, he went around the corner and he started going through half of the ring doing the wave while he's holding this dude's hand. And he's doing the wave and he's literally like playing around with the audience. What are you doing, man? There's a point where it's funny. Okay, it's part of the shtick. And then there's a point of making a mockery of professional wrestling. That was way too long. He went around the ring doing the wave. Or the wave. Riding a wave. And doing the wave with the crowd. And that's how you want to showcase this dude from C-Mill. I couldn't believe what I was... And if you're wondering, yeah, wonder not. Of course, he won minutes later. Orange Cassidy, freshly squeezed, wins this matchup. But how is that the way you want to show... I mean, that was so bad. I felt bad for that dude, that's what he came into AEW. That's what Tony Khan had him do. That's what they said, it'll be funny if you just go around the ring with him. It's ballet. That's ballet, guys. Orange Cassidy is tiptoeing on the top rope. That's ballet. And he's got a dancing partner, right? And this dude from C-Mill has to kind of walk with him, tiptoe around him. And they're both tiptoeing around the ring while everyone goes, oh, boy. BC Undertaker. No, Undertaker went from A to B, and it's the Undertaker, bro. I totally believe that this dude had this dude's wrist so tight that he didn't even want to try to yank him back. Might break his wrist. So you have dudes from C-Mill. Hey. Dudes from TNA. Maybe that's Tony Khan's answer from what happened at Roadblock. Jordynne Grace, Moose. Yeah, we have Speedball. C-Mill. You got TNA represented. What you didn't have is any progression or any real progression from Revolution that everybody was excited about. MJF was getting a business card from MVP last night. That's the segment. I'm not even joking. A little bit of words for Hangman. Their big moment was backstage face-to-face. MJF lays into Hangman, and Hangman's response backstage is, yeah, well, we'll see. That's it. Even MJF was like, that's it? All right, and then walks away. But in the ring, MJF said a few words. MVP comes out and just gives him his business card. Join us. Yes, MJF and Hurt Syndicate. That's what we really need when you're struggling to get 600,000 viewers. Stop. I'd much rather have the Death Riders. Thank you. And you guys know how high I am on Hurt Syndicate. And you know I put MJF on a pedestal as well. No. Absolutely not. Do they need to be together? Stop. Is that another badass faction, man? Stop. That's what we got last night. MVP giving a business card. I want to go over this shit, so I'll stop right there. I'll just stop right there. No, I won't. I'll give you a little bit more in this long rant of a cold open teaser. Will Ospreay cuts a promo, and people are sitting on their thumbs probably thinking it would be really nice if we were home taking a nap right now. Again, you guys know how much I like Will Ospreay. I actually think he's good on the mic. Accent and all. I know he can carry storylines. What was that promo? You're coming off a Revolution, and the whole entire promo was about his babe. His babe at home was upset with him because he did a lot of risky things in his matchup this weekend at Revolution. So when he saw the 15 calls, he's like, oh, babe was upset. And you know, guys, when you're about to answer that call, babe is upset with you. And he went on for like 5 minutes about this. There's times for that type of comedy. And last night wasn't it. And if you needed any proof, check out that reaction from the crowd. I felt bad. He was trying to just show another side of him, right? He was trying to be fun, trying to get a laugh. I like Will. I do. And I understand what he was trying to go for. Man, was that a fail. At a time where you could not fail because this show was that bad. The start of the show, don't even get me started with that, but we will talk about it. Hopefully not in any great, the cold open teaser might be longer than the review of this show. Who knows? But Dynamite 3/12/25, we'll talk about it. 3/11/25's Roadblock from NXT, we'll talk about it. It's all coming up in today's Amped Up. That's right, 25 minutes of sleep, slightly under the weather, not enough coffee. Somehow I'm still amped. Hopefully you guys can hear me pretty good, man. I'm a little clogged up, obviously. You can probably hear that, but it is what it is, man. You guys are still going to get an amped up because BC is amped up. That's it. And I designated this time for this upload and this recording, so that's what we're doing. So let's just get right into it. I don't want to do any other story. I was going to go over other things like Typhoon saying that natural disasters are going into the Hall of Fame. That's awesome, by the way. That's back in my era, the golden era for BC, the natural disasters, earthquake and typhoon. So that's pretty cool. He'll be joining Lex Luger and Hunter Hearst Helmsley headlining the Hall of Fame. Put that spotlight on Helmsley. And what else did I want to talk about? So that's it. I'm not going to go in any great length on that. Congratulations to him. Asuka, she's ready to come back. And from what we're hearing, they just don't have anything creatively. Same thing we're hearing with Becky Lynch and so many others. So there's just no creativity for them. Same thing that held Alexa Bliss back for 3 extra months. I mean, Hunter just has no creative for all these people. But he will book Logan Paul and comedian Andrew Schultz on Monday. That's it. I just want to get into AEW and Roadblock. Do we start with AEW or do we go... Let's start with Roadblock. How about we do that? Let's get a little positive, right? Right? New people to the channel like, whoa, man, is there anything you do like? Yeah, when they put on a good show. Then we praise it to the high end. Until we get good shows, no, I don't like a lot of that. Did you see Wednesday night's Dynamite? What do you want me to say I liked? What am I supposed to spend time on positively? Did you see Dynamite? Did you see Monday Night Raw? Did you see it? Did you see how bad Monday Night Raw was? But BC, didn't the cage match save it? Could have. If I didn't see the end of the show, 3 top baby faces fighting for no reason. Roman just spears CM Punk because Paul Heyman was helping him out. It's because they had to come up with a way to get Roman and CM Punk beefing. Because you only have 1 month before Mania, and the match they want is 3 faces and a triple threat. So they're like, oh, we have to have Roman spear CM Punk somehow. So boom. And now we're getting a triple threat with 3 of your top baby faces for no reason. There's nothing on the line, guys. At the last minute, they're going to have to say it's a number 1 contenders match for a title. They have to. Because even they're going to realize last second, this is pretty stupid. Why are we putting 3 dudes into 1 match? Roman and Punk don't have that type of animosity. Even if they did, it would be a one-on-one match separate from what Rollins is doing with them. There's no title on them. There's nothing. And I understand it's not the first time we've done something like this, but of this magnitude, yeah, it is. And we're seeing them too frequently. Butch, Ludwig, Kaiser, and Penta a few weeks ago. Why? There was nothing on the line, and you just saw a heel pin a heel, and in the process, Penta took an L. These are nonsensical matches, and nobody wins, is my point, guys. Penta didn't win from that. Ludwig didn't win from that. Butch didn't win from that. It was all nonsensical. Everybody, it was a detriment to them. If it was like the video game, you know how they have like the rating? Like every wrestler has a rating in the video game, you know? Penta is at a 91. Ludwig's at a 85. Butch is at a 81. After that match, all of their ratings went down. That's what happens. Did you see the segment with Io and Bianca and Rhea to set up their face versus face versus face? Ladies, at least something's on the line there. At least there's a title. No heels. Hunter doesn't want to make heels. He was one of the best heels in the industry. The cerebral assassin. Vince McMahon booked him beautifully. And he takes a shit on heels now. He doesn't even want heels. He's like, just go out there and try to show your personality. Well, they don't have any, most of these dudes. So just make them heels, bro. Stop being lazy and book heels. If Vince booked you that way, you would never have gotten over like you did. Thank goodness Hunter Hearst Helmsley had Vincent Kennedy McMahon for many things. Also to foot the bill for his little NXT Black and Gold project, but that's another story. Which Vince never saw a dime from, by the way, even in the successful years. He never saw a dime from that. Even with all these TV contracts, even the latest with CW, they're not actually making profit from NXT. They're not. It's sad to say that. Have you seen these shows lately? They suck. So yeah, it's nice when you get a revolution. I wasn't even able to see that live. I was able to catch about 4 matches so far on it. Every one of them was, pretty good. You really wanted AEW to gain momentum from that starting last night at Dynamite, and just to see the show they put on, it's depressing. It's like Tony Khan's got to be sabotaging this shit. This has got to be just a fuck you to Jimothy Cornette and the Eric Bischoffs in the community that always bash the show no matter what. So this was Tony Khan's way to say, you haven't seen Bad Buddy, check this show out. And all of a sudden he produces last night's show just to screw with Jimothy Cornette and Erica Bischoff. You know, I'm not saying that's what happened, but it's almost like, you would think that not even Tony Khan could book a show that bad. So let's go with some positivity. I'm going to swig a coffee. Let's talk Roadblock, and then we'll go back over and start shouting at AEW's whatever that was last night. Roadblock. This was NXT's big show on Tuesday night. Did it deliver? Ooh, man, let's talk about it. NXT Roadblock 3/11/25. This was a big event. Big event for the brand. The Hardys started this show off. They defeated Fraxium. This is title holders versus title holders. And the Hardys defeated Fraxium to retain their TNA tag titles. Jeff Hardy delivered a swanton to Frazier for those keeping score. Swanton bomb, Jeff Hardy over Frazier for the W. Now, I know that there's a lot of fans that are like, it's the developmental brand. This would have been a huge victory for Fraxium. Hardy should have done the job. Guys, it's New York City and the Hardys. The connection that Hardys and WWE has, especially with New York between those two entities, there's no way they waltz into the theater at Madison Square Garden and the Hardys take an L. And if you think about it rationally, guys, the TNA tag titles were on the line, not the NXT tag titles. So take a step back, think about it. There's no way the Hardys were taking an L here. I like this start. I usually like a good promo or something happening backstage, something that's evolving or progressing a storyline. And then you go into the first match. That's how I like to start my shows. But this was treated more like an actual premium live event Tuesday night. So treated it much more, it had that feel of like when Saturday night's main event was really on. And you had a lot of good promoted matchups, but you didn't have to pay any money. You just stay up on Saturday night, NBC. If you were able to stay awake or have your parents wake you up. And you just see a bunch of matches, right? It was like a payoff for a lot of stuff. Or even NXT Black and Gold. We had about 5 matches. You had an hour or 2, and they just went match into match into match, but everything kind of clicked. That's what we had Tuesday night. So we start off with this matchup, good pace. I feel it set the tone really well. The first match is just as, in some cases, even more important than the main event because it sets the whole tone. Jordynne Grace, Rok-C was next. Jordynne Grace defeats Rok-C via beast mode. This was a good match. I don't need to tell you that, though. It's Jordynne Grace, Rok-C. I think on both of their worst days, they probably would still give you a good match. I did like their first go-around more. But this was still good. Roxanne went full throttle the entire matchup, never pumping the brakes. So what this did was it made Jordynne work a bit harder just to keep up. And you guys know how much I think the world of Jordynne Grace. Rok-C is one of my favorites on the planet, but I think the world of Jordynne Grace as well. So it was kind of interesting to see Rok-C work this page, just be on. And it forced Jordynne to up her game, which is a good thing. But I think there was times in this match, if you truly know how to dissect and critique pro wrestling, like BC, and you, especially two females that I greatly respect and admire, like Jordynne and Rok-C, man, I was watching this match so vividly because of that respect. And if you know how Jordynne works, it was just interesting to see her like a few times, like, oh, okay, I got to match this. So that was really cool to see. Rok-C really set the pace there, and Jordynne Grace kept meeting it. And at the very end, a little bit of beast mode. Jordynne takes that W. That should be it for Rok-C. I'm okay with that finish. Rok-C's main roster bound, and Jordynne Grace is going to do a lot of business in NXT first. So it's the only outcome. I get it. That's got to be it for Rok-C jobbing out in NXT. That's it. She can't keep going back every time you need to bump somebody up or to give a little bit of a rub, because Rok-C now has to create her own mystique, her own special and unique brand on the main roster. And she has not done that yet. So, keep going back to NXT just for these one-off losses. It's going to be detrimental if they keep doing it. I'm okay with this. That should be it. No more jobbing out in NXT. I'm not saying this is as bad as Braun Breaker. You guys remember Breaker was supposed to go to the main roster a full year before he actually did. They decided not to last second. They kept him in NXT and they just had him on a losing streak, putting everybody over. And at the tail end, they threw him with like Baron Corbin because they had nothing for Baron Corbin, the poor guy. So they booted him to NXT, and then they just booted Baron Corbin from the company. So that was like the exit plan, right? Let's get him off the main roster, then just boot him. And they stuck Braun Breaker with him at the tail end of Baron Corbin's career, or WWE run anyway. So this isn't as bad as that. Rok-C went back, did the job. Okay, move on. Don't keep doing that. Next up, I got to save my last swig. I would like to get a swig of coffee before I talk about this match, but I got to save that for the AEW Dynamite review. But it's Oba Femi retaining his NXT title, defeating TNA's Moose via Oba Bomb pinfall. Oba, Femi, and Moose. This was a Mack truck colliding with a moose. Literally and figuratively, right? If you see Oba Femi, it's not that different than a Mack truck. And if you see Moose, he's a moose. Literally and figuratively. So this was a Mack truck and a moose. This is where you just grab your coffee, your beverage, you sit back, you max relax, and you let these dudes drop the facts. And that's what they did, man. They just showed you what they could do in that ring. If you didn't really care for Oba, like PC, there's still gray area with Oba. I'm not quite seeing superstar yet like everybody else or most others. But this is one of those scenarios where yep, that's a step closer to that. And Moose, it's interesting because Moose has been in this game for a while. You don't think of that because a lot of fans are just now learning about him. But Moose has been in this game for a while. He is a little bit older now. A little bit older. And it's kind of sad that he didn't get this run long ago. Because you see Moose in there and he's got the presence and he still can go. And you just, what if he was on the biggest of stages even 5 years ago, not even 10? But he's there now, and he showed you the kind of matches they can do. But I don't know if that's gonna translate or if they care about it. You know what I mean? But we'll see. Time will tell. I remember there was a time where Keith Lee and Dijakovic Keith Lee and Dijak were putting on just immaculate matches in NXT, and you really thought the sky was the limit for these two. And it just never materialized. Keith Lee ended up getting some issues, being out of the company, actually. Das Boot. Dijak ended up getting booted from the company, too, come to think of it. But you know what I mean? Like you see a match and you're like, oh, man, sky's the limit for these two. A few years later, they're just out of the company. You hope, that there's more for Moose. You hope that Oba's trajectory continues on in the right way. It sucks I don't know why I just compared that to Keith Lee and Dijak, but it reminded me of these just two behemoths putting on such a good match, so I know they can keep doing that. And it's just like, is the company really, do they understand how special these two are? Of course they do for Oba, BC. That's why he's getting the push. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Long term, this company just gets bored with you real quick. So I just if Oba goes to the main roster anytime in the near future, does Hunter know how to book the dude correctly? Does he care? I mean, look how he treated Lashley. He's like, you can sit home and then you can leave. It's Bobby Lashley, bro. What are you talking about? You don't have nothing for him? Nothing? Come on. Anyway, I don't want to take this in a south way. Let's keep this north right direction. This was such a good matchup, man. I can honestly say this. If this was like a premium live, if they had about 5 or 6 more minutes, because that's how on they were together and just clicking, gelling. If you gave them 5 or 6 more minutes, no commercial breaks, nothing like breaking it up to the audience, I would have actually put this in match of the year candidacy. Match of the year candidate. I can't quite do that because I just feel it was a little bit shorter. The commercial break kind of took me out. I had to get back into it. Took me a minute. Especially when we came back, they tried to if the scenarios were a little bit different, man, this would be match. That's how good it was. If you guys missed it, that's a high honor for me to say match of the year candidate, man. I understand it's only March, but then we moved on to Javon Evans, Ethan Page. Street fight. My pet peeve, right? Calling something a street fight. It's not a street. They're not in the street. They were not in the street. I don't see how this is a street fight. This is not a street fight. Especially in New York. Here in New York, street fight to us is something totally different. It's right in the street. Yes, lots of them. This was not it. This was in a wrestling ring or around it. So it's a no-holds-barred match at best. No DQ, no count-out is what I would give you. But all that aside, Javon Evans defeats Ethan Page in this street fight after 76 diamond cutters, springboard diamond cutters, most of them. Ethan Page finally stayed down. There was so many cutters, guys. Again, you can't abuse the move because then it no longer has relevance. And now if we see somebody get beat by one Javon Evans cutter, we're going to be like, what? He couldn't have at least took 3 or 4? Ethan Page took 87 of them. It's like Monday night in the steel cage match when we saw Seth Rollins take 85 GTSs. Slight exaggeration maybe, but only slightly. And CM Punk took 49 stomps. Slight exaggeration maybe, but you get the point. How did they kick out of 49 stomps and 85 GTSs? So now when somebody gets beat by one, you're like, whoa, they shouldn't be in WWE. They suck. It no longer has, the move no longer carries any weight. You can't do false finishes like that many times. All of a sudden, Rollins and Punk were superhuman. I understand kicking out once, twice, 3 times if you have to. Oh, that's pressing it. Right, BC, they're running on adrenaline, man. Okay, I get it. Not that many times. You'd be knocked out. Or supposedly, anyway. These are supposed to be their finishers. It's like fucking Mortal Kombat, you know, when you hear, finish him! And all of a sudden you hear another voice go, no, bitch! No, that's not how this works. It's finish him! And now you do the finisher. And then once in a while you actually are able to like muster, you keep playing, you kick out of it somehow, right? And you stay, but not often. So anyway, good match though. I mean, Ethan Page, Javon Evans, for the no holds barred match that it was, not a street fight. But I think we're getting carried away with trying to pop the crowd by just doing the finisher 1,000 times or doing the same wild move 150 times. If you can't pop the crowd other ways, that's on you. But don't absolutely destroy a good move, especially your finisher or one of the finishers in your arsenal, just to get that pop. And then we went into the main event. Stephanie Vaquer defeats Giulia. I don't know why I almost said Jillian. Jillian? Remember Jillian Garcia? Jillian Garcia. No, Jillian. No. What the hell is that the ring announcer? Jillian. That is her name, isn't it? Who am I thinking about? Remember she would do the singing? Was her name just Jillian? Remember? Oh, baby, how was I supposed to know? She'd do Britney Spears. Jillian, right? What the hell are we talking about? We went off the... I told you, man, 25 minutes of sleep, slightly under the weather. I don't have enough coffee. I'm getting them all mixed up. Anyway, her name is Giulia. It's not Jillian Garcia. Why does that not sound right? Garcia. Jillian Garcia. I think that is her name. I don't know why I cannot get... Yeah, Jillian, and then there's Jillian the singer. I apologize. Man, we just went off the rails. My bad. Let's put this back on. Giulia. Stephanie defeats Giulia via pinfall to become a double champion in NXT. This was such a huge moment, man. And if you guys are new to the channel, all apologies to my veteran subscribers because you've probably heard this 10 times. But Giulia and Stephanie came in at the same time. Michaels, Helmsley, everybody was trying to think, who do we give the Rocket to? And whoever we don't is going to be second. They'll get the North American title. They decided on Giulia, and Stephanie immediately began her North American title quest and subsequent victory. But it was always going to be that. Either Stephanie was going to win the NXT championship, and then Giulia was going to win North America, or Giulia was winning the NXT title, Stephanie, the mid-card title. But that's always how it was supposed to be. So in Giulia, we found out, and it's not just a slight injury. We're hearing there's visa issues as well. That's why Giulia had to drop the title. There's several issues that Giulia is kind of facing right now, so she could not be champion. So it's an interesting way to go, right? Just to they kind of just fast track this champion versus champion, face versus face matchup. But that's what they wanted. They said, listen, the first go around, we didn't give Stephanie the full rocket. We chose Giulia. Now that Giulia has these issues, now we can feel better about this. Let's just give it all to Stephanie. No harm, no foul. You now have the rocket. So that's why you're seeing Stephanie get all these accolades simultaneously with Giulia. They always wanted the whole world for both. They went all in on both of these ladies at the same time. And that's why Stephanie became double champ. It's interesting, because if you're bringing Rok-C in anyway to do this thing with Jordynne Grace, you could have easily had Rok-C take the title back from Giulia, become champion, set up a big title loss, right? A top heel like Rok-C loses at WrestleMania weekend. Because at this point, it doesn't look like she's going to have anything for Mania anyway, Rok-C. So you could have this big matchup where she drops it to Stephanie. You could have done something like that. But they decided just to fast track this for Roadblock to pop a rating. They didn't do that, though. NXT pulled 732K this week. Up 5%, no question. But that's not saying much. Last week was one of the lowest of the years. Lowest of the year. Again, more coffee would be great. I don't have that right now. The coffee bar needs more coffee. But so 732 is, they were hoping for way more than that. So it was a ballsy move. Ballsy move to make this champion versus champion match and just have the payoff right there and not do like a Rok-C gets it, set up a big Mania weekend matchup, stand and deliver. And then Stephanie has this big moment. So I don't know if I fully agree with this. The match was decent to good. It was nothing great. If you guys saw it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It wasn't in the category of Oba and Moose, for instance. And I would have actually taken Jordynne Grace and Rok-C. I thought that was better. So to each their own. I'm sure people absolutely love this matchup. I thought they could do a lot better, or maybe not. Some people that you think because they're top stars, sometimes they just don't click as well. But this matchup, I thought I'd get a lot more out of it. I didn't. I think TV restraints also didn't help. I looked at the time and I was like, that's kind of, they're not giving them any wiggle room in case they're really clicking and firing on all cylinders and rocking it out. So maybe the TV time too kind of like took them back a little bit subconsciously. But it wasn't bad by any means. The moment really was the big thing, man. The confetti is blasting off. Stephanie's got 2 titles hoisting up. Crowd's loving it. And it's just, what a moment for that lady, but for that brand. Now it's about what do you do going forward. You just made Stephanie the top star in that brand. Like that. A year ago, not even in the company. She's now on top of it all. You better have follow-up. And one of your top faces just won the title. That's the payoff. A month before your Stand and Deliver WrestleMania big show, one of the biggest of the year. And your face just won them both. I mean, what do you do? That's what I mean. It's ballsy to do that payoff to try to pop an 800K rating, which isn't that great either, by the way, but that's what they were hoping for. And you came well under that, 732. So it's a big it's a big decision. I don't think WWE got the payoff they were hoping for, but damn, what a moment. I'll tell you that. And yeah, man. Oh, there's going to be a lot of coffee today. But we're going to go over AEW Dynamite first, 3/12/25. Oh boy, here we go. I tried defending this company for months. With all this stupid stuff you'd hear in the community, right? AEW's done. There's no coming back. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in pro wrestling. And then you watch a show and it's like, dude, it's not good, but it's not doomsday. It's nothing they can't come back from, right? Like BC was being very honest with you guys. Every time I would try to catch a Dynamite and be able to review it for you guys. But there's no defending that. I mean, it was that bad, man. It's just like nothing had symmetry from Revolution. Nothing really had good progression. It was a bunch of randomness. You thought you were watching a Hunter Hearst Helmsley Monday Night Raw or something, even a SmackDown. Nothing was interesting. The highlights was Speedball Michael Bailey and freshly squeezed orange juice Cassidy. If you put both of those dudes together, maybe they're 225 soaking wet. I don't know if they've ever come across a gym where maybe they could lift heavy things and try to bulk up a little. I don't know. It's hour 1. Kenny Omega starts this show with a promo. I've always put Kenny Omega on a pedestal. This was pointless. Thanking the fans and talking excitement for the Dynasty International Championship Eliminator Tournament. And BC, right from the jump, I'm like, no, come on, dude. We are not doing another tournament. You're struggling to get 600,000 viewers, and your answer to that is another tournament that is going to involve a bunch of talent that is not even strictly AEW. And that's it. Kenny Omega does that. And then we go into a couple of stupid matchups I can't see anybody giving a shit about. The Ops win a 6-man tag. The Ops. Samoa Joe and his crew. The Ops. 6-man tag. Who cares? This is the best way to utilize Samoa Joe? And then we went into a tag match that was just as pointless. Hobbs and Hologram defeat Brian Cage and Dralistico. Hobbs and Hologram. And then Toni Storm cuts a promo. She's taken out by Megan Bayne. That's it. That's all I have. That's all I remember too. Toni Storm, spotlights on. Toni Storm has one of the best character work today. So there's not, I'm not going to rip Toni Storm. Probably one of the only highlights of last night. Megan Bayne takes her out, and that's, I guess that sets up that. I just feel we need juice right now. I'm not trying to rush anything, trust me. I just feel like now's the time to just ignite a massive multi-month feud. Toni Storm, come off hot right off the multi-month with Mariah. And Mercedes. Mercedes needs something. You could put 26 titles on her. And if you're new to the channel, that's my favorite of favorites in the women's world of wrestling, man. Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné. That's my top of the top. It's fading a little because of how she's being booked, but I love the fact that she's collecting W's and collecting titles. That always should have been the case. Charlie shouldn't be 14 times. It should have been Sasha Banks 14 times. But she has no story. There's nothing. She's always taken on the most random of individuals. She's having the time of her life and fulfilling her dream. That's awesome. But you also have to remember, you're a part of a conglomerate company, a TV show. Fans want to see you involved in something creative. Mercedes needs something. She's backstage last night with the residential NXT version of Bayley. What was her name? Billy Starks, I believe. Just reminds me of NXT Bayley, right? Or at least a cosplay version of. Much respect over to Billy Starks, by the way. But just I couldn't help but seeing them together and thinking like a very younger Bayley. Especially as Billy Starks was talking to Mercedes, saying how we're so much alike. We live for this. We love this. But yeah, much respect to Billy Starks and all the best. But that's not what we... They said, well, BC, that could lead to the Athena-Mercedes matchup. Yes. If done correctly, that would be a good second tier for me. I just think that now is the time to strike Toni Mercedes with all the gold, all the titles. AEW drastically needs something. Their women's division is lacking, and you guys know that. Mariah May and Toni Storm has kept them afloat. You take that away. I mean, you look at last night, you had Willow and Penelope. Willow and Penelope is the best you got. Anyway, Toni Storm's promo taken out by Megan Bayne. Later, I might as well just go over the rest of the women. Later in the night, Willow defeated Penelope, as I just aforementioned. Post-match, Statlander battles Penelope, because Penelope took out Willow post-match for beating her. So then Statlander came out with a steel chair, used it a little better than Thunder Rosa tried a few weeks ago. Oh man, forget that. Not that much better. These women just don't look like they've ever held a steel chair. But Statlander comes out, takes out Penelope. Megan Bayne once again hits the ring and takes out Statlander. So Megan Bayne just taking everybody out. And I just couldn't, I put in my notes, WWE booking. That's what this is. This is WWE booking. Just put a bunch of females out there and just have them in a nonsensical schmoz. Willow beats Penelope, but to save face, Penelope, the person who just got beat, is now going to beat up the winner. And then somebody's going to come out for the save, but then another heel's going to come out to save the heel. And before you know it, what really got accomplished? Nothing. But that matchup was actually in hour 2. I just wanted to keep the ladies together. The actual start of hour 2 was MJF cutting a promo on Hangman Page. A lot of nothing, a lot of word salad. One day in the future, we'll have another match together, blah, blah, blah. And then MVP comes out. MVP says, and I quote, MJF, you've lost your edge. Nobody respects or fears you anymore in the locker room. But he can help. And he gives him his card. Join Hurt Syndicate, basically. MJF is like, oh, no, I'm MJF. I don't need Hurt Syndicate. And MVP is like, blah, 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 blah. Word salad. So MJF takes the card. And he's distraught. He's like, do I join? The crowd goes mild. And that's the segment. MVP hobbles off with his cane. And MJF is distraught. That's like booking you give like a baby face. That's booking you give a baby face, right? Hey, join us, and the face is conflicted, right? That's something like The Rock would go up to Cody and go, sell your soul to Johnson $7 Productions. And Cody's like, do I sell the soul? Zoom in as the crowd's like, oh, Cody has a decision. MJF is supposed to be a top heel again, finally. He went on this weird little face turn. Didn't work. Went back heel, thankfully. And now he's back in like this weird segment that did nothing but blur the lines to a gray area that shouldn't be tapped into. This was not how you book MJF. And this is coming off like a whole month of weird booking with him and Jeffrey Jarrett. 50-some-odd-year-old, 57, 58-year-old Jeff Jarrett, whatever it is. It's just, I don't know who's booking this. If I'm MJF, man, I'm not saying you want to be a diva backstage, but I'm going, dude, we needs to talk. This is not good. And if this is MJF's idea, or he does have input, not good. Not good. This is not. MJF is one of the top premier pro wrestlers on the planet today. And I'm not just even talking skill. He can go in the ring too. But just presence. Like carrying storylines. MJF is still that dude. And still so young with so many years ahead to rock this industry to the core. But wow, what a rough year. And it's no coincidence. It's right up there with the worst year so far of the 6 years that AEW has been in existence. This is the most struggling that AEW has done, and it's no coincidence as MJF has had some of the worst booking of his young career. That's not a coincidence. If this company is going to succeed and get a lot of that audience that they lost back, try to get it to 850, 900 again. Forget 950 and a million. If they're even going to try to get that audience back, MJF has to be clicking on all cylinders. That means creatively and booking-wise. That's the truth. If you don't have an MJF rocking on all cylinders, you don't have an AEW even capable of doing such. Moving on. Max Caster cuts a promo. I like this dude. I like this new character. He's so obnoxious and so delusional. It actually works somehow. So, some people try that and it just doesn't work. You can tell they're trying to be obnoxious. They're trying to be delusional. They're trying to be evil. It's just stop. It's like clown status. This with Max, you can laugh a little, but you can also like actually be into what he's doing. So you can actually like you don't realize you just kind of put the remote down. Max Caster, I don't know. This dude was probably one of the brightest spots. Even more than Tony Storm last night, I was into this promo. He's just calling the crowd idiots for not chanting his new chant. Something like, "Let's go, Max. He's the greatest wrestler ever." The obnoxiousness of that doesn't even, you can't chant that. That's a long, "Let's go, Max. He's the best wrestler in the world." How do you even chant that? Taz was funny. He's like, yeah, that just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? But Max is trying to get the crowd to chant it. Of course they don't, so he calls them idiots. And then Take a Shitta comes out, answers the challenge that Max laid down, and makes quick work of Max. So... But I don't know. Take a Shitta. I don't know what this does for him. This was more about Max. I'm okay with him taking such a loss too. Those type of characters, they could take those type of weak ass losses and they don't really lose much. If anything, the character development in that segment far outweighed the L that he took so quickly. Then Willow defeated Penelope. We already went over that. And then just a really rough Will Ospreay promo. And that's sad to say because I really like Will. And I see so much potential. Not just skill-wise in the ring. Just, I really do feel he can carry storylines. And I feel even with that heavy accent, he can rock the mic. I've heard him with some really good promos. Last night wasn't that. Will Ospreay last night delivered a story time promo and talked about after his matchup at Revolution how his girlfriend, fiance, wife, whatever it is, his significant other was upset with him, and how she was calling him and not happy, and he's like, oh no, do I answer it, and how do I get myself out of this? How am I not going to sleep on the couch? It tried to be a funny bro moment, right? He even said, like, guys, when the woman's upset with you, you're kind of like, oh, do I even answer this? I get what he was going for. Not the time for it, man. Not coming off of Revolution. It's not what the crowd was thinking they were going to get, a comedy promo. Sharing some laughs about Babe, right? So I said, Babe, I'm okay, Babe. And guys, that was the promo. I'm not even joking. And he tried to get serious in the last minute of it. kind of got the crowd a little bit like making some type of emotion. But for the most part, man, during that whole promo, the crowd was like, what are we talking about? It was rough for me to say that about Will Ospreay, man. I was wishing he came out at a time where the show was so bad. I was like, yes, thank you. Will, do something, man. Save this, Will. That was rough. And then Orange Cassidy defeats this dude from CMLL, C-Mill. I don't want to butcher his name. It's not as it's written. Hekisaro? They said he's the alchemist of pro wrestling. He's the pro wrestling alchemist. That's what I do know, his nickname. He's had a handful of matches in AEW. Apparently he's lost a couple already. From what they said. So this isn't like he's undefeated and just, he's only had a handful anyway. But no, they already treated him kind of jobber status. But I guess he's a big deal in C-Mill, so this was supposed to be a really good match, and AEW fans, some anyway, were excited to see it. It was mortifying to see what we were witnessing, man. Orange Cassidy wrestles a good portion of this match with his hands in his pockets. Now you say, BC, that's his gimmick. Tough shit. Ungimmick for a match. Show this dude some respect, especially because a lot of fans don't know a lot about this dude. So please do not wrestle half the match with your hands in your pockets. Do not walk half of the ring ropes acting like you're riding a wave while holding this guy's hand. Because now you're making this dude walk half of the ring with you while you're riding a wave. How are we supposed to look at this dude from C-Mill when commentary is trying to tell us he's a badass in this other promotion? And we're trying to believe it, but you have Orange riding a wave and then doing hurricanranas with his hands in his pockets, tripping him up, rolling him up with his hands in it. Guys, that's a true story. Forget the wave on the ropes and the hurricanrana with his hands in his... Guys, he rolled him up with his hands in his pockets. And that's supposed to make this dude he's facing... That's supposed to make us who don't know a lot about this dude pronounce the name correctly. Now we have to go find out because what a match. No. They made him look like a goofball because he faced a dude who puts his hands in his pockets for half the match. And I'm never usually hard on pockets, McAllister. But last night was a time where you do not do that type of comedy bullshit. Have some respect for who you're in that ring with. That was stupid. That was the harshest I've ever been on Orange Cassidy. But you know what? I've always said You got to be careful where you take that comedy because when you cross the line, it could be a detriment to your opponent. That was one of those times. Took BC right out of it. How you can take that seriously now? Moments later, Cassidy wins the match. So the dude's looking up at the lights anyway. And then the show ended. This is fitting. This is like, how can we make the show even worse is what Tony Khan is thinking, right? So he brings Speedball Michael Bailey out there. So you have Freshly Squeezed and Speedball staring at one another to end the show. If you didn't watch the show, you're probably thinking, what, Beasley? Yes, you had Freshly Squeezed and a Speedball staring at one another. Does that even qualify for a cruiserweight match? I know the days of The Rock versus Stone Cold or Warrior versus Hogan or Ric Flair and Macho Man. I understand those days are gone. I understand you're not getting Batista and Undertaker anymore. Just the look, the vibe of it. But is this really what we're doing when you're struggling to get 600,000 viewers? Speedball Michael Bailey and Freshly Squeezed Orange Juice Cassidy? Is this really how you're ending? Is this really how you want to end your shows? This is a dude that doesn't give a fuck about what is the actual constructive criticism that people are trying to tell him to help the product. This is a dude that is just hell-bent on just producing the most strangest television imaginable. He doesn't even want to be competition to WWE. This was a show last night that literally was just to give Erica Bischoff and Jimothy Cornette more material for Tony Khan to laugh at. He's probably getting his rocks off on this. He's like, wow, they did this to Vince McMahon for 10 years, ripped apart his shows. This must mean I'm just as legit. I tried to help this company for months, man. In a roundabout way, it wasn't my goal. I wasn't intent on doing this from the beginning, but I guess I was defending AEW because I wanted to see it succeed so badly. Last night's one of those shows where I can't even do that. The number one goal on this channel always be amplified honesty, brutal honesty to the core. No sugarcoating, no BS. I've always told you AEW is far from good, yes. I tell you guys the exact areas it needs to switch up. Last night, I can't even begin to tell you. The whole show was just... It's almost like it was conscious sabotage by Tony Khan. I don't want to believe that, but it's almost like it was. That's how bad it was. They can never put on a show like this. I don't know what MJF is doing out there. Taking a business card from another heel. A heel giving another heel a business card, which basically just puts MJF in like a face category. That was so stupid. Mercedes continues to have nothing. Hopefully it leads to Athena. We're hoping. It's just so... There's slow burns, there's long-term storytelling, and then there's literally having nothing. Mercedes on a 2-hour show, once again, in a 30-second segment. What else? Speedball, Michael Bailey, the dude from C-Mill, another tournament, Dynasty International tournament. What are we doing, man? You wonder why you're struggling to get 600K. Look at the show you're producing. No, that's just frustration with AEW after last night. To the point where you know it's bad when BC can't even defend it. BC can't even help out. I don't even know. I mean, you literally have to... For me to help AEW right now, I'd have to have complete control creatively for the foreseeable future. I'd really have to just get the whole organization in play, get my roster, have long talks with Tony Khan. I would have to. Long talks like, dude, this is what you need to do, and this is the keys you have to give me, and you cannot take these keys back. Of course, business-wise, any decision you make, of course, but that's yours. I have to oblige. But creatively, you have to help me save this thing. This can't just be a vanity I mean, you're just not playing with action figures, man. This is a show on prime time, on cable, and we really are depending on you to be the real competition for something like WWE. Help us help you. This is one of those rare times you'd have to pay me. You'd have to pay me to start correcting all of these wrongs with AEW last night. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to run in circles with this. Under the weather. I have to drink a lot more coffee. I had a lot of business to attend to today, so I'm going to wrap this up now. We already went over the length of time that I designated, but it is what it is. I had a lot to say. Under the weather or not. Going to get more coffee. Hopefully you guys do the same. Until next time, there will be that next time. 44 Dive, that's a wrap. Amped Up Thursday. March 13, 2025 is in the books. That's it. Go get your coffees. Rock out the day. BC saying check you. Salute.